You're listening to the A Bit From Within podcast with Felicia Marty. Hello there, and thank you so much for joining me today for a new episode of the A Bit From Within podcast. My name is Felicia. I am a self-care specialist as well as a certified astrologer, and every week I come here to share a little bit from within. This week, I thought I would just pop in here and share a little bit of what's been going on in my heart space. I have been feeling a tremendous amount of stress and pressure and anxiety the last few days. I do feel like I'm doing my best to manage that, but today when I woke up, it felt like one of those days when all of the little things feel like big things. And I thought that this was something that we can all relate on, right? Like we're always told, like, don't sweat the small stuff or don't let the little things get to you so much. And it's so easy to say that to somebody else who's having maybe a meltdown like me right now, when it's the little things that just feel like big things. And I thought I would break this down into two parts. The first part is one, that when you're feeling that way, it is valid. Sometimes little things do feel like big things, and it's because underneath those things, there are really big pieces happening inside of you, really big feelings you're navigating or trying to work through. So that's one piece, is it's happening because something is very real happening inside of you. And two, there's also probably truth into not letting the little things get to you. So how can we maybe implement some actual coping strategies into letting go of some of those little things in an authentic way? Because that's one of the things I always try to keep front of mind, whether it's in my yoga practice, my gratitude practice, just whatever it is that it's very easy in this world of self-care, in this world of mental wellness, of positivity, to do such things inauthentically or to fake your way through it. And well, it's a whole nother podcast to talk about how sometimes there is benefit of faking it till you make it. In general, I think that it is important to not lie to yourself, right? To not sit here and say, oh, I'm so grateful, when you're not actually feeling those things. Or to say, I'm okay, I'm not letting any of the little things get to me, when you're feeling very overwhelmed, you're feeling so much resistance. I think that process that we can all so easily fall into, maybe that's a trap, is something that it's good to be aware of. And maybe at the very least, we can maybe just carve out a little bit of space for two things to be true at the same time, which is, like in my case today, okay, the little things feel like big things right now. I'm definitely going through something. I can try to figure that out, make some space for moving towards the other side, towards finding that shift. And I can understand that that's where I want to go. That's where my intention is, to let go of some of this little stuff that feels like it's getting me down right now. So that's what I'm hoping we can cover today. I'm sure you can hear it in my voice a little bit right now that I don't think I slept very good, which is probably the first indication of why I'm feeling a little bit like emotional and in my feelings right now, why the little things feel big. And that's okay. In fact, I figured I wanted to capture this moment because one, I'm trying to let go of my formal schedule of having my podcast always come out every single Tuesday. I'm trying to just give myself a little bit more space during this summer. While I do really like having a schedule to hold myself to, it's worked very well for the past few years. Right now, I'm going through a lot. I just moved across the country. We're trying to get settled into our house, and a lot of those, initial big checkmark items have been checked off. And now here we go again it's the little things. Like my driver's license was about to expire, and so had to get down to the DMV this week, and there's a lot of work in trying to find the right paperwork and make sure things have been mailed to you and that you've kept those things and that you brought, all of the important documents with you, like that was a big task, things like that, and just the constant little things that we're trying to figure out in our lives, in our new home schedule, in our work routine. Summer is here, that changes things. There's a lot going on, and so I figured I would just give myself a little bit more permission to have space this summer, to not be perfect, to not have another checklist that was on a weekly timeline that was on my shoulders, and instead let sitting down at this podcast be something that is when I feel like I have something I really want to speak on. So with all of that said, thank you for being here this morning and letting me share what's been going on with you. And I hope that this little bit from within me resonates with some part of you, and that it hopefully encourages you or inspires you, or at least gives you a little bit of a laugh, or of a moment if you feel like you're connecting with a friend. So we're going to dive into all of this, but first I do want to share a little bit of what is happening astrologically right now. You guys know that I am a huge fan of tracking the lunar cycles. The reason that I am so big on this, especially if you're new around here, you can hear a little bit of my spiel, is we are so connected to the moon, especially astrologically. The moon moves through all 12 zodiac signs in one lunar cycle. So from the time we go from a new moon back to another new moon in 29 and a half days, it passes through single zodiac sign plus one in order to get to the next new moon. Now, new moons are the beginning of a lunar cycle. So even though the sky is dark, even though you can't actually see the moon, that is when the cycle begins. And we have a new moon that's coming up on June 18th, and it's going to be a new moon in Gemini. It's happening right at towards the end of the sun season of Gemini. So Gemini, the sun is in Gemini from about May 22nd, 21st until June 21st, 22nd usually. I'm not sure on my exact dates right now, but there's a little bit of a window for you. And so with this new moon happening at the end of the Gemini sun season, we're going to be really kind of building up towards this even more Gemini energy. So if you've been feeling some of these Gemini vibes lately of like feeling really chatty, needing to learn things, being really busy, having a lot of communication or coordination kind of things going on, that's because Gemini is ruled by the planet Mercury, and Mercury rules all things communication and coordination, travel, technology, that kind of thing. So if those themes have been a big influence in your life right now, maybe for the best and possibly for the worst, maybe you've been traveling a lot, maybe you've been getting some new software upgrades, maybe you've been getting a new phone or a new computer software, maybe you've had to upgrade certain things or set up certain accounts online, maybe you've been taking time to connect with friends more, or feeling that need to. These are all things that are very common during Gemini time. And as we build towards this weekend, when the sun and the moon are both in Gemini, this is going to be a great chance to connect with that. I almost like to feel like Gemini is like the feeling of just being a bright, preteen, early teenager. You're social, or hopefully, in an ideal world, this archetype of I have a young spirit, right? You're social, you are an avid learner, you are bright, you are putting things together. You can't stay focused on one thing for too long because you're so passionate, you're so filled with an internal energy to go and seek out new things, new conversations, to express yourself, to be creative. This is an energy that's going to be really fun to explore towards this weekend. And of course, meet yourself where you are at with this. It's interesting because Gemini is a very external focused sign. So there's an outward energy. But the moon is in a very internal energy. And a new moon in particular is a moment of going deeply inward. So how do we kind of combine those two truths, those two very honest and important spaces, into one moment? Well, I think the best way you can do that is by meeting yourself where you are at right now. New moons are about new beginnings, setting new intentions, getting ready to move forward. And this will be a beautiful moment to connect and check in with yourself before we move into the first month of summer, which comes just a few days later. So the sun moves into the sign of Cancer and we kick off the summer season. So for this new moon, as you come to this weekend, oh, you guys, there's a blue jay. It just landed right on this tree in front of me. Oh. I have to take moments to talk about what's happening outside my window because this is so incredible. In my last recording space in Colorado, I recorded in a closet, which probably would have had better sound quality, to be honest. But right now I get to record in my office and stare out the window. And so I hope you'll forgive me if I insert a couple moments like that throughout podcast episodes moving forward. Anyway, totally lost track of where I was at. That blue jay was absolutely gorgeous. He's already flown away. But going back to this weekend, just take some time. Remember that your ability to focus and go internal and figure out how you want to move forward is something that, one, we all deserve, and something that, again, why I'm so grateful to work with the lunar cycles is that it is a moment to reset. And you know, it's so interesting because I almost skipped over this Astro Check-in segment this morning, but I'm so glad that I didn't, because in my kind of rough mood this morning, I think that I kind of got out of touch with this part of myself that very much believes that we can always have that new beginning whenever we need it, right? It's something that if you've ever practiced yoga, so I've practiced yoga for a very long time now, about 13 years, actually a little bit longer than that. But whenever you're finishing a yoga class, you know, you move out of Shavasana, you roll over to one side. And I always love this idea that when you sit up, you are sitting up into like a brand new reality. You can leave behind whatever you need. It is a moment of a fresh start, of a new beginning. And sometimes that is it is a very spiritual practice. You have to be in a spiritual place to allow yourself to experience that. But you also can practice this actively with the lunar cycle, right? But you can't do those things if you don't have the intention to. And so that's part of the reason I love just keeping my eye up on the sky and having an idea of where we're at in the lunar cycle, because it does absolutely build. We start out with this new moon. It sparks this new energy, these new ideas, this new creativity. It allows us the energy to keep moving and building and challenging ourselves and growing until this kind of culminates, this energy at this full moon. And then we can slowly start to kind of reflect, to make adjustments, to let go of what's not needed, and to move into a place of retreat, move into a place of surrender as we move back towards the end of the cycle, which in turn is the beginning of a new one. And that is one thing that I was thinking about this morning is, you know, why am I in this, like, I'm just going to call it a bad mood. Why am I in such a bad mood this morning? What is it? Like, not just why, but what's happening underneath. And I think that one of the things I'm feeling right now is my anxiety to control things, or to feel like I have control over something in my life right now, along with like the pressure to get a bunch of things done, is kind of fueling this internal part of me that's like, you need to keep going, you need to get more stuff checked off the list, you need to have more control over things by getting things done, right? You can't have these things kind of outstanding. That's a very anxiety fueling feeling that moves through you, that can get a firm grip around you and control you, right? So I am being controlled by my anxiety. But underneath that, there's this feeling of, we are moving towards a new moon. This is a time to quiet down. This is a time to let go. This is a time to surrender. This is a time to literally like move more slowly, to take more space, to rejuvenate yourself. to make sure that you're able to do that you're able to carve out time to set intentions coming up, right? And this process takes time. These are not light switches that we flip on and off. And so maybe that's the what that is happening underneath, is there's this feeling of, I really need to slow down. I need to sleep a little bit more. I need to calm down. And instead, there's that anxiety feeling that's kind of taking me in that opposite direction, trying to bulldoze my instincts to slow down right now and to do a little bit less right now. And that comes down to me feeling like I'm not giving myself permission to slow down, that I'm afraid that things are not going to get done. I'm afraid that things won't be okay. I'm afraid that I'm going to miss something and that everything's going to fall apart. And even as I speak those things out loud, I know that that's not true. That's just my fear talking. That's the anxiety. But I don't even know if I would have connected that as deeply as I just have if I didn't take this moment to sit down and share a bit from within with you. With that said, I will share with you just a little bit more about some of these little things that feel like they're getting me down right now. I will say that going into this week, I knew it was going to be a really busy one. My partner's in a certification class right now through his work. He's very focused. His days are really long. He doesn't get done until later in the evening. The dogs have been crazy lately. My work schedule is really intense. There's finally starting to feel like there's just a lot being planned and embedded into the schedule. Even little things like having to get to the DMV, but also just little things like getting to the post office. We're trying to coordinate these certain visits right now that are happening. That's a big thing going on. People are starting to reach out and wanting to plan things for the summer, and that part of things is challenging because, again, we just got here. We've got this huge yard we're trying to get a hold of. We are trying to settle into our house. There is so much to do. And even though every week there's more and more to do, there's also this it's like we've been running a marathon, right? It's like, I don't even know what mile we would be on, but the knowledge is that like, this hasn't just started, right? Like we've been going through a tremendous amount of stress and pressure. And there's this need of like needing to slow down and catch back up. And it's probably about time to like take a little break, take a little vacation. But even that feels challenging because it's like another thing to have to plan, to take off work, to figure out what you're going to do. I can't even go there right now because it's too much mental load. But last night, I could kind of feel the wave of this coming on. I could feel it in my nervous system that I was just feeling extremely anxious. And in all honesty, I was probably I don't know if this is going to sound like an excuse, but I would say I felt too tired to do anything that was probably a good choice for myself. Like I should have probably gone to bed early or done some yoga, these are the shoulds, right? The shoulds that come up. I should have drank some water and relaxed. Instead, I'll tell you what I did is I went and got some ice cream, ate a frozen pizza, watched a TV show with Dave, and then as I was trying to do my nighttime bed routine, I found myself just feeling so anxious. I actually ended up reaching out to a friend and we chatted until about midnight my time, which was on one hand just so good. Like I needed that so bad. And that does trump, the lack of like getting into bed early, because sometimes you just need that connection and need that support. And I'm so grateful that I was able to have that. But then, I couldn't fall asleep because I was so wired. And so I ended up being up until like 1 a.m. and finally falling asleep. And then it was just one of those things where I really needed to sleep in today, and the dogs were being crazy, and David left early to go to the gym, and he had left the dogs out of the room. And so of course, then they start barking, and they're barking. So then I let them in. And our little golden retriever, oh my gosh, he is so sweet, but he is such a handful. And I probably need to be doing, I should be training him more because he is just very intense greeter, or very intense if he wants or has your attention. It's very cute, but also full time, it's very overwhelming. But he starts crawls up on the bed, he's snuggling against me and he's wiggling and he's getting his head closer to my face, and he's so strong he can just take your whole jaw out with his whole face. So he's doing that to my face and I'm like, easy. And all of a sudden, whack, he takes his whole paw and he hits me right in the eyelid. My eye immediately starts watering. And I can share this because for some of you, you'll really relate to this. Others of you might think I'm crazy, but I immediately start panicking because I have an eye thing, an EYE thing. I cannot handle if there's a vessel issue or a big scratch or anything like that. I had a blood vessel issue in my eye once, and I was by myself, and when I saw it, I fainted. So that is a thing. And so I started kind of panicking because I'm like, oh my God, I'm here at the house by myself. If I go look at this, is there something that's going to be seriously wrong? Am I going to be able to handle it? You spiral. And my eye is watering, and I'm so frustrated, and I'm like, all I wanted to do was sleep a little bit longer, and this dog is so intense, and so it's get off the bed. And then I'm like, okay, just hold your eye closed for a second, just see what's going on. I'm like, okay, it feels okay. And then I'm like, okay, I can see. It ended up being fine. I feel like my eyes are just really puffy from being tired, but there's not a black eye or anything. But to be honest, I usually don't over dramatize when he does get that way, but it really hurt. And it was just in that place right in the top center of my eyelid that I thought for sure was something bad had happened. But so that happens, and then I get to the bathroom and there's no toilet paper, and that was frustrating. I had to go to a different bathroom. And then when I get downstairs after that, there's my third shoe in the past month that my dog, Nash, definitely Nash, has eaten and started to destroy. So my everyday shoes, he's destroyed the soles of those, had to buy new insoles. He's destroyed the soles of those. Got a brand new, my favorite sandal, got a brand new set of sandals for the pair of sandals for the summer. Yep, found one of those, destroyed that. That one I was super frustrated about because I had them in the closet in my bedroom with the door closed so that he couldn't get in them. You have to put everything up with a puppy. And of course, David, my partner, leaves the door to the master bedroom open. That little dog sniffs it out, finds it, pries open the closet door, gets it. I mean, they're still wearable, but they're brand new and they look so destroyed now anyway. So when I went downstairs, he had found an old pair of my tennis shoes that I had been wearing recently because of the lack of soles in my other one. And he started to destroy that one. I mean, it's salvageable, but I was so frustrated. So of course, I just let them outside, try to take a deep breath, want to go get some coffee. There's no coffee in the coffee maker. Okay, that's fine. I just try to go through the motions. I'm like, okay, you need to go stock toilet paper in the bathrooms. Great. Oh, we're out of paper towels. Go downstairs, get some paper towels. Okay, just one foot after the other. And it was just one of those moments, even as I'm reflecting on this, it's these little things that don't feel, these are not make it or break it things. This is not going to matter later this evening. But it's one of those things where you just are so frustrated that you want, what I wanted to do was put blame on somebody else. Why can't anybody else help me? Dave, you refill the toilet paper. You refill the paper towels. He did tell me that there was more coffee that had been delivered, and so I was able to get some coffee eventually. That was good. But it's just those little things, and I knew that part of what was happening for me this morning is that I was tired. I also felt like, okay, I need to get my day going. I need to go get some, like put my face on and just like get myself into a better vibe. But I also felt like my eyes were so puffy today from just not getting enough sleep that I didn't even want to go there. So instead I decided the one, and let's start to transition, right? So like, there's the reality. We know we've kind of dissected it. Just to summarize it up, didn't get a lot of sleep physically. We're moving towards a new moon. There's a lot of stress going on. There's a lot of feelings of anxiety happening underneath. These are all real. And it's being augmented by a series of little things that didn't go quite as expected or as ideal this morning getting going, right? Now, as I sit here and I have had a chance to validate that and share about it and get it out and process it, now that that's happened, I can start to allow myself to transition my energy somewhere else. And part of that is being in a real position of gratitude. And I want to make this point because I think if I would have just sat here and just forced myself just into this period of listing these things I'm grateful for, the list probably would have been the same, right? Like what I'm about to share would probably be an identical list to what I would have done if I would have done this first. But the feeling inside of me, it is what is different, because right now that I feel like I've had the chance to adequately express my feelings and process and just come to that place of understanding within myself. Now, when I talk about this feeling of gratitude, I can see it from a different perspective. I can see it from a true place where like the energetic pathway and forward is actually clear, so I can expand like my heart energy into that space. I realize that sounds really woo-woo. I guess another way to explain it would be like the path is clear, right? So instead of having a roadblock in your way of where you're at, like that roadblock is removed and you have space to move forward into that feeling of gratitude. So finding the gratitude, it's like I can sit here and say, I'm really lucky that like my schedule this morning is a little bit more spacious, that I didn't have to leave the house, that I have this moment where I could come and sit down and record the podcast today, that I could sit here with my little cup of coffee, because we did get coffee in yesterday and I was able to make a little cup and bring it up here so that I can sit down and stare out the window and have this moment. I didn't have to push all of this away this morning. I'm also feeling really grateful that some part of me knew not to open my work computer, because I almost did. That is the habit that I fall into, is I'm feeling all this stress. I'm going to put my energy into something different. I can open my work computer and do that. No, I made a good choice for myself this morning by just saying, no, you have the time. Just take the time right now for you. And I'm glad I made that choice, because I'm already starting to feel a lot better. And I'm grateful I saw that blue jay this morning. That was a beautiful moment. I'm grateful for this beautiful green tree that I'm able to look at. I'm grateful for the summertime. And I'm so grateful to be where we are at on this journey. I've been sharing over the past few weeks on the podcast that it is hard to always feel so enthusiastic about big changes, because big changes are hard. You can be excited for them and you can feel like overwhelmed. And that's a lot of what I've been navigating. But when I take out that piece or sort through the overwhelm, I'm also just so grateful. I'm so grateful for all of the opportunity that is here, for all of the moments of adventure. And I do think that the mix of feelings around all of this is what is making me feel anxious, right? Like there's so much good happening here that I'm afraid to lose. And there's so much going on that it's very easy to get lost in that and to wonder, well, what's going to happen? What's going to come of all of this? And do I have to hold myself to this like intensely rigorous standard in order to maintain all of this? And if so, like, is that something I can sustain, right? These are just things that I'm thinking about in the back of my mind. And truly, there's so much of that it's time to let go of. And, actually, this is a great thing to talk about finally, which is, how do you let go? How do you let go of the little stuff? But also, how do you let go of the big stuff? And I'll tell you up front that I'm not an expert at that, but I will say that actually letting go feels a lot more like falling into a place of trust. Trusting that everything is going to work out okay. Trusting that the universe or God, your belief system, has your back. That things are working out as they are supposed to. And having a deep-rooted belief in that can take away a lot of the feelings of the need to control things. Kind of makes you a little bit more open to things playing out as they should. And also, it kind of reinvigorates your own faith in yourself that you can do it, that you can make it through, that all of the right things are happening right now. And when you start to sit into that place and really start to believe that and let that feeling come over your whole body, your whole being, suddenly, like, the little things that are out of place right now, like all my dresser drawers that have like clothes sticking out of them, and this sounds so silly, but like I think the other night Dave had like torn the pillowcase off of one of his pillows, and I've been stubbornly waiting for him to put it back on instead. So like that, stuff like that, like, it does not matter. I may not have the energy to tackle all of those things that I want to be perfect right now, but I'm going to come back around, or I'm going to ask Dave to do it. Like, those things will get done. And even if they didn't, they're really not that big of a deal. But in that moment, when you are feeling so many other things, that's definitely one big mark on the list. Another thing that feels like it's going wrong. But when we sit back and we remember the bigger picture and we zoom out and we feel feelings of faith and trust permeate through our being, those things don't matter anymore. But I'll just reiterate, you have to make way for those feelings to be able to come in. I do believe you could probably sit down on your yoga mat and meditate your way there, but there's still this same kind of process happening. So, all right, you guys, with that, I could probably go on and on, but I do have a lot of other things I have to get to. I'm just so grateful that I was able to have this moment, because I really am feeling a lot lighter, and I want to say thank you to anyone who's listened to for holding space for me that I'm feeling even right now, even though you're listening to this in a different time space than when I'm sharing it, but I feel this connection. I feel it. So thank you. We are going to end today's episode with a card drawing. I'm using the Super Attractor deck by Gabrielle Bernstein. I haven't used this deck in a while, so I'm very excited to see how the universe wants to add to today's conversation. Oh, okay. Oh my gosh. This card says, I can do less and attract more. Yep, it's going to go right on my desk right now. Beautiful reminder, especially when we're feeling overwhelmed, when we feel like we have to control things and get a million things done. It's not about that. Let yourself move into better alignment with what's really happening inside of you. And that doesn't have to look woo-woo or spiritual or go crazy or anything. It's just sit down. Give yourself the space you need. Grab yourself a coffee, sit on the back porch, lay on your yoga mat, and just notice what's happening inside of you. Notice where your thoughts go. That's the beginning. That's all you have to do. Well, I feel like we can all take a nice deep breath now. I don't know if you're feeling it, but I am. Thank you again for joining me today, and until next time.